Okay. So in 2016, I took a trip to the south of Italy with two of my aunts. One was 60 plus at that time, and the other was 70 plus at that time. So not my normal travel companions. So the reason why we were traveling together is that one of them, her husband had passed away, and she was grieving and she needed to get out of Singapore for a while. And I was taking a break from work. So she actually called me, asked me if I'm willing to go, and I was like, yeah, why not? And so I think within a week or two, we just left. We just bought tickets and left. And we went to the south of Italy. We rented a car and decided to just drive down the Amalfi Coast. So it was honestly like beautiful, and I love driving. I was the sole driver because they are too old to drive. So I was a sole driver and I had so much fun because I love driving, and Amalfi Coast is, I think, one of the most beautiful drives in the world. Also very thrilling because if you go a bit to the left, you fall off the cliff. so I just like drives like that, and it was really like an awesome trip. I think we were there for maybe 2-3 weeks. There was a problem with this trip, which is their age. So basically every day at 7 o'clock they would want to go to sleep. 7 p.m. okay, and I was about to die of boredom after maybe 5 days. So I don't think I've ever watched so much Netflix on a holiday like in my entire life. So I think around like maybe on the second week of the trip, we landed up in, we had no plan for our trip, so we randomly just drove down, and whichever small town we landed ourselves in, we'll stay there for the night, look for a place. It's very impromptu and very fun. So we were in this small little town, and I was just researching about what's there to do in this area. And I realized that we were actually at the town that was nearest to the port that goes to Stromboli, the famous volcano that features in the book The Journey to the Center of the Earth. So of course I was super excited, right? It's like finally like we can do some exciting outdoor stuff. Stromboli also has a very nice hiking trail all the way up to the crater. It's an active volcano, so you can actually see the lava and everything. So I was so excited. I told my aunts, and they told me no. They said that they cannot hike because they have arthritis. So it was very troublesome. It's very troublesome to get to Stromboli. It's a little volcano island in the middle of the ocean. So they didn't want the hassle of the trip, right? So I was like, you know what? I cannot be watching Netflix again. I'm gonna do this. So I decided to go alone, which I am fine with normally traveling alone. If I'm in a city like Hong Kong or Sydney or whatever, I like spending the day at the museum, stuff like that. But when you're in the island in the middle of nowhere alone, it's actually quite scary. But I decided to do it anyway. So I had to wake up at 3 a.m, drove the car, 4-hour drive to the ferry point. Couldn't speak any Italian, had to look for like a car park where I could park the car overnight. Finally I settled everything, took the ferry, landed in Stromboli, and it's such a small little town. There's literally one restaurant, one small grocery store, and that's it, right? And I decided to just wing it like I'm doing now. So I just winged it. I landed on Stromboli, and like people came to the port and they were like, "Do you need a room?" I'm like, "Yes." And there were very few travelers as well. It was actually quite off season, so it wasn't like crowded, even though normally Stromboli would be crowded, but it was very quiet. It was actually quite freaky, to be honest. I randomly went with this old man to his house where he has an extra room, and he just gave me his keys and he was like, "This is your room." And I found my way to the hiking company. They have a small shop, and I signed up for the hike. So before the hike, I went for lunch at that one restaurant and I ordered like pasta or something. And then halfway through my meal, the chef came out, gave me like a little sandwich thing in aluminum foil, and in very broken English told me that he thinks I'll get hungry during the hike, and made me a sandwich in case I got hungry. So that was one of like such a sweet, blessing that happened. And I went for the hike, and it was an amazing hike. Very beautiful, very tough, but very beautiful. and it actually ended when the sun was still up. So then I got down, I showered and everything, had dinner. And then because you're on a small little island, there's really nothing to do. And there's nobody to talk to, and I'm all alone in the room. And I wasn't gonna talk to this old man who owns the house. So I didn't know what to do, but I actually had my camera equipment with me. So I decided, and since my aunts were not there to worry about me, I decided to be crazy and I decided to go back on the mountain, back on the volcano in the darkness. I brought my head torch, I brought my camera equipment, I brought my tripod, and I decided to just play around with my camera and see what happens. So I set up my camera, and at that time I was starting to get a little bit into astrophotography. So I was playing around with the functions and all that. And because you're in the middle of nowhere, it's complete darkness. And I don't think I've ever seen so many stars in the sky before. It was so beautiful, it was really countless stars. And I started taking pictures and everything turned out great. And when I felt like that was such an amazing moment. I think I was up there in the middle of the mountain for quite some time and just taking in the scenery. And then eventually when I got down to back to the room and I was processing the pictures in the camera, I found some of the photos were quite weird. So there was some streaks of color in them. And streaks of weird colors in the pictures. And when I actually loaded it to my computer, I actually realized that I had accidentally captured the aurora, the northern lights. Yeah, so it turns out that it was a cold night and somehow everything was aligned. And I inadvertently managed to capture the northern lights from the volcano Stromboli. And it was just such an unexpected blessing, which would never have happened, if I hadn't taken the leap of faith and gone for that trip. So yeah, that's my story.